Alrighty, it is Sunday, February 15th, and I finally got all of the aluminum pieces on the gable end. Everything's caulked and screwed. All I need to do is go and caulk along the ridge line here and here once everything dries and sets, and then paint it. I'll paint everything underneath that roof extension there, as well as repaint the aluminum. It gets nicked and scuffed when I'm putting it up, so one more coat of paint won't hurt. So that will complete, well, not quite. I am going to put a couple of trim pieces along here and here in the red, the Spanish tile red, like I have around the carriage doors, just to complete it, but it's more of an aesthetic thing than functional. So once I get that up, that'll be pretty much complete for this roof section here. Everything's sealed up. I'm going to put the door in maybe tomorrow and get a little panel to fill in that air conditioning opening. And that should seal me up from the outside. And the other thing I got done today was I cut the rest of the gusset plates out of the 1/2-inch plywood, and I got them installed. Sorry, there's not much light in here, but you can see there, there, and there. Those are the 4 gusset plates that I wanted to put on the roof rafters just to sturdy them up. And now I can do my gymnastics routine without them moving a millimeter. So they are solid as a rock. And I think along this back wall, I decided instead of me ripping 5/8-inch strips from 2x4s, I'm just gonna, next time I'm at Lowe's, I'm gonna pick up a couple more of these fairing strip, a bundle of them, and then just put them up there. They work perfectly. They're 3/4 of an inch, but you know, I was gonna go 5/8, but no big deal. So they fit perfectly and they'll do just fine. So that's kind of it for my Sunday. I think I'm going to call it a day and pick up again tomorrow with some caulking and painting and move on next week. All right, talk to you later. I finally finished up the aluminum sheathing for the gable end, and there were just 2 little pieces right up in there that needed to be cut and screwed into place. So I did that. Take you up there and just show you that real quick, because it was kind of a pain. It took a while for these to cut these 2 little pieces. You can see that's one of them here, and the other one is right up in there. It's this piece here. It just covers above this 2x4 rafter here. So I just wanted to close that up, and then I caulked all around this, the 2x4 here, over there, and over there. So we're pretty much sealed up all along the gable ends. I just have to run a bead of caulk right along the ridge line here on both sides, and we should be good to go. And I can, once it dries, I'll paint it again. And obviously, as you can see, I've been doing some painting. I wanted to get a coat of paint around like the door and this window, because I'm going to do some trim around here, and I want to put that up there. Before I put the trim up, I want to have at least 2 or 3 coats of paint on that aluminum sheathing there. And then inside, sorry I'm running out of light, but because I'm going to fur this back wall out another 3/4 of an inch, I needed to add another stud here for the corner so that I have something to nail drywall into. Because if I was coming out to like here with 3/4 of an inch, I wouldn't have much. So I put a stud here, and I also pre-drilled for the electrical, and I put another stud over here, again pre-drilling for the electrical. You can't see it because this hose is in the way, but there it is. It's right there. That's the electrical will come through here. So I got another stud here, and then also on this front wall needed a stud for the corner and a stud over here for the corner. They were just not there, so I needed something. And then I put this other stud in, which will allow me to put a piece of trim right on the front here and hold this aluminum sheathing firmly against that wall, because right now it's just kind of like flopping in the breeze. So I really wanted to lock that down. And then I have cut the trim for this window. I need to get it painted. It's down in the Quonset hut. I recut the bottom shelf bracket, the 4x4 at an angle. So that's done, needs to be painted. And then I cut the top and side trim pieces for this air conditioning opening. And that's about all I got done today, but that was enough. So I'll keep pushing forward and update you again tomorrow. Take care. It is Wednesday, February 18th, and we got a misty morning here in Florida. A little chilly, but not too bad. So I just wanted to cover what I got done yesterday before I start my day today. I did go into town to get some more supplies, some more 4x4s, a few other things, some paint. But I mostly did painting yesterday and a few other little things. But I wanted to show you that I've got these 4x4s painted up, ready to go in the ground. That's the one that's going to be the end one for the second row for the vineyard. And then I started painting these smaller intermediate posts. They're only going to be 4.5 feet tall. They'll be for the wire. They'll just basically hold up the wire in the middle, and they'll also hold the wire for the irrigation system. So they're all painted as far as to the top of the soil. I ran out of paint. That's one of the reasons why I went into town to get some more of this paint. This is called Tree Line Green. And I'm actually using a different Valspar paint. It's an exterior paint. It's a little less expensive, but it seems to be pretty good. I think it's called Storm. I forget the name of it. Well, I'll find out later. Anyway, so I got more paint. Once these go in the ground, I'll finish painting the tops of them. And yeah, so once I get this in the ground, then I got to do it all again on the other side. So these are all painted, ready to go in the ground. I do want to put a coat of Flex Seal, at least around the bottoms where I got the grain at the bottom that would suck up moisture, and that's where you really tend to get the rot. So as soon as we get a little sun today, I'll put the Flex Seal on and then put these guys in the ground and then paint the tops of them. May not get that done today, but yeah, it's coming pretty soon. So yeah, I've got all the holes dug for the intermediate posts, and it's ready to go. All right, let me show you what's going on down with the office conversion, and then we'll go down to the Quonset hut. Be right back. Well, like I said, I mostly did painting yesterday, so I've got the whole back wall of the mobile home painted in this new green color. It's called Irish Paddock. I kind of like it. I think it looks pretty good. I think I'm going to go with the darker green up underneath the eave there. It's just to get some contrast. Probably do the door in the darker green. That's the tree line, same as the posts for the vineyard. And then I also, while I was at Lowe's yesterday, I picked up some of the fairing strips. So I got them on the wall. They just need to be screwed in. There's one screw in each one of them, and I pre-drilled them, with a template. So they're ready to get screwed onto that back wall. And that'll pretty much finish up that back wall ready for sheetrock. And I also finished drilling the holes for the rough wiring along here. So I'm going to come in, the wire comes in here to the room. I'm going to put a junction box here and I'm going to tee up this circuit. So the T will send a wire this way to the outlet in the room on the other side. I'm going to put another outlet here, there, and then one for the air conditioner under here. And then the other end of the T will come across here, outlets, another outlet over here, and then up to this switch for the gooseneck light on the outside of the door. I'm not going in because I got sand on my boots and I don't want to drag it in here. So that's why I'm not walking in. Anyway, let's go down to the Quonset hut and I'll show you what I got going on down there. It's more painting. All right, like I said, it's more painting going on. This is the bracket that will sit underneath the window, not the window, the opening for the air conditioner. And I bought a new piece of 3/4 inch plywood for the platform for that air conditioning opening. The other one had a delamination in the layers of the plywood. So I just figure I might as well just buy a better one and cut that to length. So I'm painting that up, and then this is the trim here for the window around the air conditioning opening. As soon as I get one more coat on this, and I'm going to flip it over, or some other sides that need to get painted, especially this as well. I haven't even started that one yet. This has only got one coat on it. And then I bought some more trim pieces. This is that severe weather stuff that's good for trim. This is going to be, there's 2 of them that I'm going to cut down for the verticals on each side of the door. And then 2 of them will go up along the very end of the gable end. And then one more, I forget what I bought this one for. I can't remember, but I know I need it. So I'm just started to paint these. This is only one coat. Got to get 2 more coats and I'll flip over. So I'm back to the whole painting routine now. So that's it. I got more painting to do, and I'll be back on doing the furring on the back wall, and then move forward. I think I got some caulking to do on that front wall, or the very back wall of the office today. And then I'm going to start to maybe patch up the delamination of the plywood on the floor so I can start to get that floor in with a new layer of plywood. Okay, that's what I got planned for today. Talk to you later. All right, it is end of day, Wednesday, February 18th. And I did get all of these posts flex sealed along the bottom. So as soon as they dry, they are ready to go in the ground. Unfortunately, I didn't get to it to the end of the day, so I probably won't do that till tomorrow. I'll let them dry overnight, just to make sure. And I think we may get a little bit of rain tomorrow, but I think they'll dry before we get any rain. All right, let's go back down to the little office conversion. Talk about what got done down there. All right, be right back. All right, so I did get all the ridge line on against the wall here caulked up and down there underneath that eave. So as soon as that dries, probably by tomorrow, this whole area underneath the eave can get painted. And I'm gonna go with like a darker green, the tree line green. I think I mentioned that before. Same as the posts for the vineyard. And then I did get these back furring strips installed. So they are all done, ready to go. And I caulked a little bit more along the bottom here, along the floor. And this, I started to do just a little bit of, hold on, maybe I'll get some light, a little bit of electrical work. This is where the wire for this circuit comes into the room. comes in here to this box. This is going to be my T box. So from here, I'll branch to go over here to an outlet, probably an outlet here, and then the outlet in the room on the other side of this wall, outlet, and then another outlet for the air conditioner. And then I'll branch over to this direction, outlet, and then up to the switch for the gooseneck light on the outside of the door. And possibly, I'm still debating what to do for the ceiling lights. Maybe I'm going to have them, maybe I'm not. I really don't know yet. I'm doing a little research on those really thin pancake style LED lights, but I still got a little bit more research to do, see what I can come up with there. And then finally, I did get this floor patched. Originally, I had cut a bunch of these strips off of a 2x4 just to make it exactly the right width of the top layer of this plywood. And because I really thought that the Lawan was going to be too thick. And on second look, the Lawan actually is slightly thicker than the top layer of this plywood, but it's so darn close that, you know, it's totally within spec, no problem. So I cut these pieces of Lawan, and I used the little pieces that I cut off the 2x4 to fill in that spot. That's been regular wood glued underneath here and then tacked down with a bunch of little finishing nails. And then I did the same thing over here. This was a little spot that needed to get repaired. Also back in the corner there, and then here against this wall. Those three spots needed to be torn out, which I did this morning, and then repaired with those strips. And over here, there's one more spot, but I'm actually going to, where is it? It's like, yeah, there it is. You can see it. I'm gonna just take my hand electric planer and just shave it off. I'm not gonna worry about it. I pushed on it and it's pretty sturdy. It doesn't like bounce at all. So I think it's good. I'm just gonna plane it off, and then I will be ready to put the new plywood flooring in here. And then I finally did get, well, not finally, but still working on putting some more coats of paint on the trim and the piece for the shelf that goes underneath the opening for the air conditioner, and the bracket, the 4x4 cut at an angle. So those are still being painted. I did get all the coats of 3 coats of paint on the top. Now they got to get flipped over and hit the bottom. And I did remember I had 5 of the pieces of severe weather trim board, and I said 2 were for the verticals on each side of the door, 2 were for this the gable end up here just to trim it out, and then I am going to do 2 pieces along here just to cover these horizontal seams along here. It's just an aesthetic thing, but I think it'll look decent to do that. So that's what those other 2 pieces were for. All right, well, not sure what I'm going to tackle tomorrow. Maybe I'm going to try and start on the floor, maybe trim the window. I'm not sure. Maybe take this door off and paint it. Yeah, whatever suits me in the morning, what I feel like doing. So, but I got plenty to do. Anyway, that's it for today, and I'll talk to you tomorrow. It is Thursday, February 19th, and it was warm here today. We had a little rain late this afternoon, but right before it started to rain, or during the rain actually, I finished painting the posts for the first row of the vineyard. So let me flip this around and show you what I got done today. All right, these are the first posts for the first row of the vineyard. I'm going to have 4 plants, 1, 2, 3, and 4. And I'm thinking that eventually I'm going to get some solar powered LED lights and hang them along here. So I'll have this one, and then these are the posts for the second row, and then I'm going to leave space here for 2 more rows, and then beyond that I'm going to mark out like a 40 by 40 garden area where I'm going to grow some pumpkins, some watermelon, and sunflowers. That's just for fun. See how big I can get the pumpkins and how tall I can get the sunflowers. So that should be neat. But then if I put the lights, the string lights along here, solar powered, I can light up the vineyard at night, which should look pretty neat. Anyway, so I'm making progress on this. I got this other row to do. I'm not looking forward to that. This is a lot of work. These things are in the ground over 3 feet deep. I did this northern post same as I did the southern one with these big cinder blocks, one at the bottom from kicking the bottom to prevent the bottom from kicking out, and one at the top to prevent it from leaning forward as much as possible. If that doesn't work, I've got another idea. I can put another post in the ground here, and then I can brace it to the bottom of this one. So you got a post like that, and then a brace to the bottom, and then the wire will come down and connect to, well, it'll connect here, stop here, but then there'll be a brace from this post up to here, and that should definitely prevent it from, tilting over due to the stress of the grapevine wire. So that's my plan. We'll see what happens. I've got a contingency. And this morning I had every intention of working in the little office conversion over here, and I was going to put the floor in, and I could have done that, but I kind of went in a different direction. So let me take you down there and I'll show you what got done today and what I plan for tomorrow. All right, hang on one second. Before we go to the office, let me just show you what came today. I ordered some hoses and some two-way splitters for the water. Right here, they got, well, there's 2 of them. I guess they were doing some watering for farming or whatever previously. So that's a spigot, and then this one, here's a spigot. And I've got I like these things. They're pretty cool. They hook up to the spigot and they allow this thing to flex a little bit, so you're not yanking on that top piece. And it's also got its own shut-off valve. So then this hose comes up here all the way. It's going to come up to the vineyard. Oh, by the way, eventually at the bottom of this piece here, I've got a timer with a splitter on the bottom, and you can time when you want the water to come on and go off. And so one will be timed for the vineyard and one will be timed for the garden. So it's a electronic timer thing that shuts off, turns on and shuts off the water based on a schedule. So then this comes up here, and this hose is a little longer than I needed. I may replace it with a shorter one and use this one for the garden because it's going to be way out there. But then this one comes to a splitter here, and then each one of these will get hooked to some black PVC pipe that will hang about 16 inches off the ground, and it does like a drip feed for each of the vines. So they have what they call emitters, and you just basically poke a hole in the PVC, or not the PVC, like a polyethylene pipe, and you pop the emitter in there and it seals it, and then that emitter will just drip 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 however many gallons per hour that the emitter is set for. So for grapes, it's, I think, half a gallon per hour. So you put one on each side of the vine for the root, and it just drips half gallon per hour on each side. And you know, you don't really have to worry about watering it because it should handle it and give it the proper amount of water that it needs. All right, that's it. That's going to be cool to set up. So I'll be getting to that maybe next week. All right, let's go down to the office. So as I mentioned before, I was going to start putting the floor down in this little room here, but I decided that I would focus on getting it sealed up. So I put some of this floor patch in the spaces where the Luan didn't quite fill. I don't particularly like this stuff. It's this stuff right here. It fills in all the cracks. I thought when I bought it off of Amazon, it came in a little jug. I thought it was going to be more like a caulk consistency, or it would just be sort of smooth and you could just sort of easily trowel it in. But it turned out to be more like a hard clay and it's not easy to work with, and it's really difficult to get it to be flat or on the surface, and it's hard to get it to stick in there. So as you're like smoothing off the top, some of it peels away, and it's really hard to work with. But anyway, I did the best I could to fill in all of the spaces around the Luan, and then back there in that back corner where I had patched the floor as well, there were some spaces. I put it everywhere. And then I painted this floor area here. And I think what I'm going to do is I'm going to mount the pre-hung door back on here tomorrow and get that in place. So that's why I kind of painted here. This was actually, when they put the door in previously, this was left unpainted right here. So I got a couple of coats of paint on that. And then I'll put this door back in place. And then once it's in place, I'll actually remove the door from the hinges. I'll take it off, I'll sand it, and I'll paint it. And I'll also put that bottom sweep on it and then put the door back in place. So that should seal me up on this particular opening. I also have a small piece of plywood because there's a pretty big gap above this door. I'm going to fill it with at least 1/2 inch plywood painted. I've got it already painted. And then I'll just either caulk or do spray foam along the top. Because I know, like I said, there's definitely some space up there that needs to get filled. So if I put the plywood up there, I only have maybe about 1/2 inch to fill. And I think the foam will do that quite nicely. And then I took the pieces of trim all the way that were on the inside of here off, because when I was cutting them to fit all in here, I had to rip them down, and that exposed some, unpainted sides of the wood. So I took them all down to the Quonset hut. I'm going to get 3 coats of paint on all those edges. And then when they're dry, I'll come back, I'll put them all back in. And I also have the shelf here and the brace at the bottom, which is the 4x4. That's almost done. It's got all the coats of paint on it I think it needs. So that should be, I should have everything painted tomorrow. I don't know if it'll be dry enough to actually put it up tomorrow, so it might be Saturday or Sunday that this all goes up. And then I also cut a piece of plexiglass to go in there. It fits right in the opening. And I think I'll just put maybe some weather stripping along that lip that I have in there, and then have some screws that go through that lip, and then just tighten it up with like some sort of wing nut kind of thing. So when the air conditioner's not in here, I'll have a plexiglass cover here, and then it will at least let some light in to the room and also seal it up. So let's go down to the Quonset hut, and I'll just show you what I got going on there for the painting situation, and that should wrap it up for today. There's the Quonset hut and the gooseneck lights. It's looking good. Still functioning. All right. Still got to clean up here. Got to power wash that at some point this summer. That's going to be a pain. And then let's go in here. All right. So I've got 3 coats of paint on both sides of these. I got to flip them on the edge and get one edge painted, and then I'm going to do some ripping down, so that's going to expose more unpainted wood. So once I get it ripped to the proper width, I'll have to paint that other edge. So that's almost done, getting there. And then these are all the pieces that were inside that opening for the air conditioner. They're getting painted right now. I think, well, they probably need another coat on the ends here. I can see it's kind of light there. So that's got to get the ends painted. And then these are the trim pieces for the outside here. And then this is the 4x4 brace and the new piece of plywood that's going to be the shelf. So this needs to get a little bit more paint on it. It's got both sides painted, but not quite done yet. These, I think, are pretty much done, ready to go up. I'm just kind of waiting for them to dry. And I still got, like I said, I want to put a few more coats on the ends of these, let them dry, and then I can put the whole assembly back together. And I know I'm going to have to put this up against the wall and figure out where the screws are with the neoprene washers, and then use like a Forstner bit to drill out a little bit where the screws are, and then paint the holes where the screw or the Forstner bit drilled a little round hole to accept the head of the screws, so this thing sits flush against the wall. So that's it. I think I got my work cut out for me for tomorrow, and we'll see what gets done. Talk to you later. Alrighty, it is Friday, February 20th, and sometimes days just don't go the way you think they're going to go. Yesterday was an example, and today was an example. Not that it was good or bad, it just went in a completely different direction. So we're having some rain today, and I figured I was just going to do some painting, and I started to just rearranging all the lumber and the sheet goods I've got stored here against the house, trying to organize it a little bit better. And at that point I was able to get to the 1/2-inch plywood fairly easily. So I started laying out the floor in the little office conversion. So I got the floor in today. So let's take a look. All right, come back up to here. By the way, this door is in just temporarily. I've got it in there because I'm trying to fit this little piece down at the bottom there. Let's see. I've been trying, I had to cut like 3 different dimensions for this little piece that this sill plate's going to sit on. So I've got it cut to the right dimensions. So I'm going to take the door out. I got to paint this up, a couple coats of paint, put it back, caulk it, and then, seal the whole door into place. So yeah, that's it's got to come out again one more time, and then it'll go back in permanently. So here we go. This is the floor. See if I can back up as much as possible. So it's just 1/2-inch plywood, and underneath it I put a layer of this roofing felt here. It's this stuff. It's pretty thick stuff. I mean, as far as roofing felt is concerned, it's pretty heavy duty. So it makes the floor sound and feel a little bit nicer to walk on, and it definitely won't squeak once I get it all screwed down. Now, all the sheets of plywood are screwed only on the ends and maybe a couple in the middle, but I got to go through the whole floor and screw it down completely. But I was kind of waiting till I get the door in before I do that, because I wasn't sure if I was going to extend the plywood out underneath the door or just come across the threshold here and then put the door in. Turns out I've got a piece of plywood underneath there. And that's the other reason I got to take the door out, because I want to put one more coat of paint on that and then screw it and caulk it down so that it's completely airtight, watertight. And I think that'll do it. So I'm still working on painting the little trim pieces for this window. They're basically done. I think I mentioned yesterday that the ends need to get another little dab of paint on them. So really didn't have time to get down there and do that today. Although I did get down there and I painted the sides of the long trim pieces for the outside. So they've got at least one coat of paint on the sides. 2 more coats, and then it's got to get ripped down, and then obviously once it's ripped, it's got to get painted again. So yeah, things are moving along, but very slowly, especially with painting. It takes a while, but it's worth it. It's worth it to make sure it's coated 3 coats, solid, dry, ready to go up. And you know, it's worth taking the time to do it right, because in the end, you just want it to last, and it will last if you paint it and caulk it correctly. So that's pretty much what I did today. And that's going to wrap it up for the week. I think I'll probably get this screwed down. I'll paint this floor. I'll get the door off. I'll sand and paint it. Get this trimmed up next week. Get the door out here trimmed and paint underneath the eave here, and get the trim pieces up along the gable end. And that's gonna really get me quite a long way to finishing this up. I'll probably do the rough-in wiring next week. You can see the cable right there. I'm ready to do that. So I'll be putting electrical outlets all around the room here. And then it'll be insulate and then drywall. So making progress. All right, well, that's it for this week. Talk to you next week.